Hey everyone, it's FLAK Fire. Morale in the Battlefield community seems to have hit some new lows, courtesy of some ill-advised tweets and a lack of official information. The situation is so bad, apparently moderators behind the Battlefield 2042 subreddit have debated shutting down the entire board. Much of the outcry was sparked by EA's Global Director of Integrated Communications, Andy McNamara, who made a couple poorly worded tweets which have since been deleted. He stated, quote, "Back to work today. Check Reddit and Twitter, and Battlefield fans are pissed we didn't do enough updates or communication during the holiday break. Guys, people gotta rest. We have things in motion, but we have to figure out what is possible. We will address it when we are 100%. Let us get back from break and get back to work. Love you guys, but these expectations are brutal. The things you want take time to scope, design, and execute." End quote. Predictably, the community did not react well. Now, I get what Andy was trying to say, and he means well. Developers are human, they work hard, and they deserve breaks like everyone else. I 100% agree with that. What's more, developers aren't responsible for the majority of problems that Battlefield 2042 faces. Those stem from poor planning and executive decisions. Developers crunched to get Battlefield 2042 out the door on a deadline. The fact it should have been delayed another 6 months doesn't just magically rejuvenate those people grinding out the updates. I feel tremendously for developers right now, and Andy apologized, stating his message wasn't clear. Unfortunately, it doesn't mean that fans' anger is unwarranted or that their expectations are in fact brutal. Battlefield 2042 was criticized for design decisions prior to release, and leadership has been largely silent. When they did speak, it was to assure fans that they were listening, and then they arguably ignored that feedback. Obviously, that hasn't helped, and the community has now reached a boiling point. Developers need to respond in a meaningful way and announce how they're going to address the game's most glaring issues. I respect that developers had some kind of vision for Battlefield 2042, but if they want the franchise to survive, they're going to need to reconsider that direction fast, and they really need to have an honest conversation with themselves. The fan base's expectations are far from brutal. In fact, they're quite reasonable. Players want the return of the traditional class system. They want a scoreboard. They want easier communication. They want a server browser, and they want a better balanced and more stable experience. I've read through thousands of comments at this point, and those are far and away the most frequent complaints. And again, those are hardly what you would call brutal expectations. They are the expectations of a devoted and passionate fan base who have enjoyed what Battlefield brought to the table. You could argue the time frame in which they want these changes is brutal, though I would still say they've been asking for these changes since before launch, so it's not really a valid point. Sadly, the most painful part of all this is if developers had just listened to that early feedback, we wouldn't be sitting here in this situation. Now, while most players are concerned with the tone of the tweets, other parts of Andy's comments are much more alarming. Two sentences stick out most to me. The first is, quote, "We have things in motion but have to figure out what is possible." There is a lot to unpack in that line. Developers are facing a complicated engine, but they're also facing the realities of game development. Work takes time and money. The unfortunate truth is that there is a point where it isn't financially feasible to do what is necessary. You need only look at Anthem for an example of that. Overhauling the specialist system would take tremendous work and probably create a lot of problems in the development pipeline. Based on Andy's comments, I don't think it's realistic to expect significant change to the flawed core mechanics of the game. Battlefield 2042 will likely never become the game that fans wanted in the first place, and if it does, it'll be much further down the road. And honestly, I would absolutely love to be proven wrong here, but I'm not quite as optimistic as I used to be. DICE has pulled off a similar overhaul with Star Wars Battlefront 2, but I think there is more that needs to be done here. Andy's comments also signal that DICE is holding on to its core vision when I believe that nuclear options should be on the table. The other troubling statement for me is, quote, "The things you want take time to scope, design, and execute," end quote. Feedback has been clear for months. If developers are just now having these meetings, they are well behind the ball. It also projects the approach that if something is ignored long enough, eventually people will accept it. And with Battlefield 2042, clearly that has not worked, and hell hath no fury like a scorned gaming community. I think it's important to note that anger from fans isn't something that just popped up overnight. Andy's comments were just the straw that broke the camel's back in a long line of other issues stemming all the way back to the reveal of Battlefield 5. Many of those problems were never addressed, and they have continued to fester within the community. So where does DICE go from here? Well, first, I would just admit that some mistakes were made. Battlefield 2042 might have sold well, but players feel betrayed and they have regrets. User review ratings are brutal, and personally, I don't need an apology for Battlefield 2042, but again, I have been reading the comments, and I think it would really go a long way with a chunk of the community. There's also the fact that apologies don't really cost anything. They show the community that they are seen and valued while simultaneously displaying introspection. These are things that DICE desperately needs to do from a public relations standpoint. Second, DICE needs to develop a clear roadmap and stick to it. It's a tremendous opportunity to involve the community and demonstrate how their feedback is shaping the future of the game. You could almost think of it as a new community test environment. But developers have got to commit and they've got to deliver. Players have had enough of the empty promises. A clear direction for the game also telegraphs competence to players who might purchase the game, which should be a huge incentive for EA. Also, the amount of content promised for the future of Battlefield 2042 right now is incredibly vague. It amounts to 4 specialists and 4 seasons of completely undefined Battle Pass content. That is it. That is all that they are legally obligated to give you. Content in the first season is going to determine for me whether or not EA is committed to the long-term success of the game. It's kind of the put up or shut up moment. By doing these two things, DICE and EA might actually have a shot at regaining the narrative surrounding Battlefield 2042 and indeed the entire franchise. If they fail to make the necessary adjustments, it is doomed to suffer the same fate as Anthem. And I know EA has made a lot of chatter around supporting Battlefield, bringing all these new people in, moving these new studios to support Battlefield, etc. But after 5 years of this, to me, until I see otherwise, it's just talk. I want to take a moment to say this is probably going to be one of the last Battlefield 2042 videos I will do for the foreseeable future. I have a lot of problems with the core gameplay loop right now, but mainly just not having fun. I've given it over 100 hours now, and I am just about done. I will continue to cover franchise developments and post the occasional video. Still got some details videos kind of waiting in the wings, but in the meantime, tell me what you're playing right now or what other kind of content you'd enjoy. Make sure to tell me in the comments below how you feel about the current state of Battlefield 2042. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If not, a dislike. Make sure to subscribe, tap the bell for the latest updates. Again, if you want to support the channel, check me out on Twitter, Facebook, etc. Leave a follow or a like there, and save your money. Share this video. As always, thanks for watching.